So my name is Victor Brick,
And I'm Lynn Brick.
and we are the founders of Ohana Growth Partners, which, as Tara said, owns and operates over close to 100 clubs in the United States and in Australia. We are also the founders of Brick Bodies, which is a chain of full-service health clubs in Baltimore. We are also the founders of the John W. Brick Mental Health Foundation. We sit on the board of psychiatry for Johns Hopkins Hospital,
The Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences.
the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at Johns Hopkins. I sit on the board of the Global Wellness Summit, and I also sit on the Mental Wellness Initiative of the Global Wellness Institute.
And in my former life, I was a registered nurse at University of Maryland's Shock Trauma Unit, which is the first trauma unit in the world. And I also hold a master's degree in health and wellness coaching.
So we're fitness people. Why mental health? My oldest brother, John, suffered from mental health issues, schizophrenia, his entire life, and died from complications of the disease. Notice I say complications of the disease because schizophrenia is not a terminal disease, and we believe that he was simply worn out by the medication. And in all the years of his treatment, sometimes in the finest hospitals in the country, never once was John put on a fully integrated, well-rounded program that included such things as exercise, nutrition, and mind-body approaches, along with the traditional approaches. It was always the big three. Does anybody in here know what the big three is? The big three is psychoanalysis, medication, institutionalization. If any of you have received treatment for mental health issues or know anybody that has, I can almost guarantee you they relied on the big three: psychoanalysis, medication, and institutionalization. We knew there had to be a better way.
So the mission of the John W. Brick Mental Health Foundation is nothing less than to change the way the world treats mental health. And we do this by integrating self-care approaches such as exercise, nutrition, and mind-body practices into the treatment of mental illness and the promotion of mental well-being.
So why is there a mental health pandemic? Two of the most important things for sound mental health are connectivity, which is community, and coping skills, what to do, how to take care of yourself. What are the two things that COVID exacerbated? Loneliness and lack of access to people with coping skills, and those people were us. They closed us down when the country needed us the most, and we will pay for that for the next 15 to 20 years. In any given year, 27% of the American population suffers from some form of diagnosable mental illness. Post-COVID, that's gone up to 50%.
And what is most apparent is that the millennials really have, many age groups suffer from loneliness, but specifically the millennials, as depicted by this graph here, which is also double that of baby boomers.
Millennials are twice as lonely as boomers.
I think it's 30% of millennials say they have no best friend, 27% say they have no close friend, and 22% say they have no friends at all. Can you imagine having no friends?
Is there anybody in this room that has no friends? Is there anybody in this room that had no close friend, best friend growing up? Think of these statistics. So everyone knows we're in a mental health pandemic. What a lot of people don't realize is that we are in the beginning of a mental health renaissance. Why? Because there are a lot of people around the world that think like we do, and that is the integration of self-care and healthcare. This article, Moment for Mental Fitness Goes Mainstream, was in welltodoglobal.com publication just last week. And Well-To-Do Global is the news source for the fitness and wellness industries.
Mm-hmm.
And mainstream it has. In that article, it said that 54% of adults' main motivation for exercising was for boosting mental health, ahead of the 49% who said it was getting in shape. When I started in the fitness industry in 1953, when I started the fitness industry in 85, there were two main reasons people worked out. Predominantly, get bigger, get smaller. Most of the guys wanted to get bigger, most of the women wanted to get smaller. weight training, aerobics. It progressed to looking better and general health. Over time, it has now moved on to mental well-being. Another study that backs this up is Euromonitor, a research firm, an international research firm, polled 10,000 respondents in the 4 major age groups, the boomers, the Gen Xers, the millennials, and the Gen Zers, and they all said, they asked them what the main reason they worked out was. They all said the same thing: mental well-being. For the first time ever, mental well-being.
And that was done in 2020.
And it was done in 2020. In 2021, IHRSA, I believe it was 2021, yes, IHRSA commissioned Clearview, which is another research firm, to come up with a rallying cry for the entire industry to help us come out of COVID. And this was their report, Industry Rallying Cry Development. Who here in this room has seen this report? Seriously. Who here in this room has read this report? The findings in this report are staggering. And what they found out was that the rallying cry should be reconnect with well-being. And they use the term well-being. We phrase it here, a headline you can use in your ads: exercise your mental fitness.
And actually, Carrie Koppel, who was a former chairman board for IHRSA.
Coined this phrase.
Yeah.
And this is why they said that it should be, you should hang your hat on, as an industry, on well-being. This is the perceived fitness journey of non-gym users. In other words, most of the people out there in the general public that have not joined your clubs think this is the path they will have to follow to accomplish their fitness goal of losing weight, helping with a medical issue. Effort, 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 maybe, if you're lucky, a small reward. And you do that 3 or 4 weeks in a row or 3 or 4 months in a row, and you quit. Now, we all know you lose a pound a month, a pound a week, you have 52 pounds in a year. They don't think that way. This is the age of quicker, faster, better. Immediate response. This is the age of Amazon and Grubhub and all the other things. So this should be the journey that health club users experience in order to get them to join and to stay.
It's the ideal behavioral design journey.
Ideal behavior, and it's nothing more than instant gratification, stimulus response, effort reward. Effort, you put forth effort, a workout bout, you get a reward, you feel better. You put out effort, you feel better. You put out effort, you feel better. You put out effort, you feel better. After every workout, you don't have to tell them, hey, 5 more of these and you'll lose a pound. What you tell them is, Mike, how you feeling after that? And they say, great. And they walk out with a reward right after they work out. So, what is mental illness? It used to be historically that mental illness was thought of as this continuum with no mental illness at one end, mild mental illness in the middle, and severe mental illness at the other end. And you would move up and down this continuum based on your pathogenic condition, your hereditary, and life events. So, again, this was the pathogenic model. If you had no mental health, you had no well-being issues. The Global Wellness Initiative, of which I'm a member of, the Global Wellness Institute, has created the dual continuum model. And the dual continuum model still has the same traditional continuum, but it also has a vertical continuum. And in the vertical continuum, you have flourishing at the top and you have languishing at the bottom. And the two continuums, although they're interrelated, are also independent. For instance, you can have no mental health issues, a pathogenic mental health condition, no history, no genetics, no anything. You're going through a divorce, you lose your job, your dog gets hit, you lose a loved one, you can go from flourishing to languishing at the bat of an eye. On the other end of the spectrum, you could have a diagnosable mental health issue, a la depression, a la anxiety. You have a right support system, you do the right things, you exercise, you eat well, you have a great job, I love you, you can be flourishing. Now, the horizontal continuum, that's the healthcare continuum. That is where you do need these traditional treatments and interventions because there is a pathogenic condition. The vertical condition, the vertical continuum is the, I was doing so well. There you go. The vertical is the, so that's pathogenic, has to do with illness. The vertical is salutogenic. Salutogenic means wellness. It has to do with the holistic approaches and life events.
And self-care.
And self-care. That's where we live. That's the lane in which everyone in this room lives. We're all about self-care, are we not? That leave healthcare to the professionals, don't leave healthcare to the professionals, but realize that that's their main domain, and we really have the greatest effect in the self-care vertical continuum.
And as I always say, self-care is not selfish. All right, so we talked about wellness and well-being and all these different terminology. We like to use the term well-being. Why? Because wellness is part of that wellness-illness continuum. It's more pathogenic or medically based, whereas well-being is all about what more the general public accepts and can relate to. It is also related to happiness.
So if you
Doesn't everyone want to be happier?
So if you ask somebody, you want to be happier? Who's going to say no? You ask somebody, are you okay? You need any wellness? No, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. So that's why we use the term well-being, because everybody could stand to have a little bit more well-being. What you want to think of, the wellness, self-care, healthcare, is the yin-yang model. And they're both related, but there's always some so think of the yin as the healthcare and the yang as the self-care, because that's more active and getting people to move and all that kind of stuff, more energy. So there's always some self-care in healthcare and always some healthcare in self-care. We also want to remind everyone that we're talking about being integrative, not alternative. Integrative means you work together. We want to work together, and there was a panel earlier this morning, work together with healthcare. We do not want to turn healthcare off. We don't want to tell them, you know what you're talking about, we got this covered. At the same time, we want to make sure that they know that we are part of the healthcare delivery system. We are part of the healthcare delivery system. Where are we? We're upstream and they're downstream. When the traditional healthcare industry.
In other words, we're proactive, not reactive.
So one of the things that also causes mental health issues, especially self-care issues, is rumination. Rumination is a word I'm using to impress you guys because it means worrying. Did it work? So, and what causes rumination? What fills the gap between the known and the unknown is fear, if you let it. And what we have to do is fill that gap for them, our members, our staff, our circle, with knowledge and with coping skills. There's COVID, am I gonna die? You fill it in. I've lost my job, where do I go from here? You fill it in. Fear will fill that gap if you let it. We have to fill the gap, help them fill that gap with a plan.
The physiological benefits of movement and exercise also benefit mental well-being. Why? Because of a hormonal response. There's a hormonal response to every kind of movement, and I call it a dose of joy or a dose of happiness. D-O-S-E. D stands for dopamine. It's your addiction drug. It's your reward hormone that your body secretes. Oxytocin is your connection hormone. When a mother nurses her babe, it's that hormone that's released. S stands for serotonin. It's your happiness hormone, and that's also released with movement and exercise. Endorphins, of course, is the E, and that is what is released to help reduce pain, help reduce stress, and together they provide a dose of happiness. Now, why is that so important? Because it not only helps physical health and well-being, but it also helps mental health and well-being. And in addition to that, you know, the power of the human touch is also releases the same hormones. And also a hug releases the same hormones. But a 20-second hug releases even more hormones. Now, are you going to have everyone hug each other?
Usually when we give this presentation, we have everybody hug each other for 20 seconds. Looking at this room, I would want to hug some of you guys on a dare. So we won't ask and we won't take up your time to do 20 seconds, but later tonight, I can guarantee you we will do that. And more.
But here's the secret.
Did I just say that? Is this being recorded? Oh my God, I got carried away, sorry.
Yes, you did. All right, but here's the secret. You notice it's not right side to right side. It's left to left, heart to heart, 20 seconds, count it. And that will do your body and your mind more good.
No joke, there is a science behind 20-second hugs. They've actually tested it, and you do get more of a dose of joy with the 20-second hug. In addition to the hormonal response, movement helps with chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation leads to chronic pain. Chronic pain leads to depression. Depression is the root cause of almost every single mental health issue, especially non-pathogenic. Non-pathogenic health issues are almost always tied to depression. How does movement help with inflammation? It reduces CRP. CRP is C-reactive protein. It's a biomarker in the blood that indicates inflammation in the body. So what we're saying with this healthcare, self-care concept, do not relinquish control of your health and well-being. If your mother, your parents were anything like mine, especially my mother, they would do nothing that the doctor didn't tell them to do. Mom, we should go for a walk. Well, what did my doctor say? And those days are over. Take control of your health and well-being, and I know all of you do, but make sure your staff and your members do as well.
So it all starts with movement. And why? Again, because there's a hormonal response. Evidence backs this up. A vigorous bout of exercise is the equivalent to an entry-level dose of Zoloft, and that's according to Dr. George Everly from Johns Hopkins. The John W. Brick Mental Health Foundation was originally going to be a research foundation focusing on funding and promoting scientifically evidence-based research. But we discovered that research has already been done. So our team collated and correlated and consolidated 30 years worth of over 1,400 research studies that were qualitative and correlational in nature, and compiled and published this report, which can be found on the John W. Brick Mental Health Foundation website. And it's on the resources drop-down menu. You can read close to 100 pages of the actual interactive report, or you can focus on reading the executive summary. And the summary conclusively proves that exercise and physical activity benefit mental health. It's resounding conclusion. So what does that really mean? Vigorous, some of the report also mentions that some of the findings mention that vigorous exercise is better for depression, and mind-body exercises are better for anxiety.
Now, some people think of this as the opposite. They think that, oh, you're anxious, you should do, or you're depressed, you should do meditation. Well, guess what? A lot of times when you do meditation, what do you end up doing? Ruminating. You end up worrying because your body really is in a state of inactivity. You've got to get yourself moving. You want that hormonal response. So surprisingly, exercise helps with depression the most.
Yeah, here's that word, vigorous. Vigorous exercise is most beneficial, and that's a key word, vigorous. As a matter of fact, high-intensity regimens have much more an effect, much more impact, much more power for mental health and well-being than lower-intensity regimens. So why? Again, because of this hormonal response. Findings also proved that 3 to 5, 30 to 45-minute workouts weekly are most beneficial. Combination of strength and cardio are most beneficial, and moderate to vigorous activity levels are most beneficial.
In the perfect world, this is the most effective program.
The ideal
The
program.
ideal world, 3 to 5 45-minute workout bouts weekly. Why? Because you can get compliance for that.
More
A
consistency.
combination of strength and cardio. How long have we been preaching that in our clubs? I mean, is there anybody in here that only thing you've got in your club is, well, maybe you do if you're a certain model, but most clubs have the combination of the two. and moderate to vigorous, there's something to be said about go hard or go home. Why? You get a better hormonal response. Vigorous activity has shown to be more effective than moderate.
And 30 minutes of vigorous exercise has 3 times the physical and mental well-being benefits of walking 10,000 steps a day.
This is something when somebody says, oh, I just walk, you could say, well, you do know that vigorous activity is 3 times more, because people think that that's all they have to do. And it's great and it's beneficial, but you do need positive stress.
And of course, positive stress is different for different strokes for different folks, right? You need to meet each person where they are, and walking at a faster pace might be moderate to vigorous activity for someone that is very inactive.
What we're really talking about is hormetic stress. And hormetic stress, the root word is
Hormesis, which is a Greek word that means put into action. It's also the basic root word for hormones.
we keep talking about a hormonal response. And another word for hormetic stress is positive stress. So how many people here have heard that stress is bad? It's a killer, high blood pressure, da-da-da-da-da-da. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Stress is essential for life. Any of you are parents, you know you've got to push your kid a little bit outside their comfort zone, or they'll be crawling around the floor when they're 10 years old. The key is, and so the Yerkes-Dodson law states that performance, and the rise is performance, and the run is level of stress. How many people remember that from high school, the rise and the run? I don't know, it was math or geology or something. But anyway.
Statistics.
Statistics, whatever. But the rise is performance and the run is level of stress. Performance improves with stress to a point. So think of it this way. Too little stress, you're bored, or you get in your comfort zone. Too much stress, you get fatigue, you get exhaustion, you get anxiety, panic, anger. But just the right amount of stress, you get improvement. Now, this is true for learning an instrument, learning a sport, weight training. How do you build muscle? You ever heard of the overload principle? What is the overload principle? Right here. You train somebody too hard, they get hurt, they get frustrated, they quit. You don't train them hard enough, they get no improvement. You train them just right, and they become King Kong, but they get the results. So, some people, and they've said it to us just recently, they say, well, if movement is so good, what about all these athletes that are having mental health issues? Probably the most famous athlete right now, and it's an American, I know there's a lot of British foreign attendees, international attendees, but most people have heard of Simone Biles. Now you tell me where Simone Biles was on this Yerkes-Dodson graph. And the answer, anxiety, panic, anger, breakdown, and burnout. Would you agree with that? So, right amount of stress, Yerkes-Dodson, positive stress.
So what's the best exercise for mental well-being? Well, it's whatever they are gonna do. And whatever exercise motivates them. And here's the key thing. It's an opportunity for people to discover their inner child, the element of play, just having fun, going outside and just enjoying life. So what are some unconventional things that you can offer in your clubs that are in the club, or maybe perhaps outside the club, outside the box, so to speak? So Shinrin-yoku, for example, is forest bathing. It's not just walking down a path in the forest, it's immersing yourself into the forest. Why is this helpful? Well, the trees emit phytoncides, which help to heal the trees if they're diseased, but it also helps to heal our bodies as well. It's a phytochemical that when you inhale it, it helps to increase your mood and reduce your blood pressure. And next, we have all walking, which can be done anywhere outside, in the city, in the country. It's just observing everything around you with all of your senses, Mother Nature, the sights and sounds that surround you. Next, we have laugh yoga, which is one of my favorite. And who here has experienced laughter yoga before? Some of you? A few hands have raised up. That's great. All right. So since I am the exercise lady from way back in the day, I'm going to ask you to stand up, please. And it doesn't matter whether you are it's a real laugh or a fake laugh, your body will secrete the same hormonal response. So are you ready? Are you ready? Yeah, I thought so. Let's all take it feels good to stand up again, doesn't it? Take a nice deep breath. Inhale, both arms up, and exhale, and just kind of let it all out. Again, inhale, and exhale, and let it all out. Okay. But here's the go. Now you're going to add a laugh. Okay, inhale, and exhale. All right, go ahead, stand on up. Well, that was pretty good for a warm-up. We're going to get into the real deal now. Are you ready? You have put your palm out like this. Doesn't matter, both rights are right. And the other hand, you have a big tube of laughter cream. Ready? You're going to turn that tube upside down and give it a big squeeze. Good. All right, you've got a huge amount of laughter cream in your palm now. You're going to place that tube on the ground. And then, oh, my goodness. Are you ready? You're going to take that laughter cream and, rub it on your hands. Rub it up your arm. And in your armpit. It tickles. It tickles across the other side. Down your arm, down your arm. Oh, and how about all your belly? And down your legs, down your legs. Wait, and on the backside. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Okay, relax. Take some deep breaths. Oh, okay. Well, that was pretty good. And you could share that little bit of dose of joy or dose of happiness with your team. All right, you can sit down now.
So, one, you guys got off easy because there's usually 4 rounds. And 2, whether you were laughing because of the cream or at Lynn, you were laughing. And be honest with yourself, for those of you that did laugh, makes you feel better. Whether you fake it or whether it's real, the body cannot perceive it, and it releases a hormonal response.
And as Dr. Patch Adams says, laughter is the best medicine.
And laughter is the best medicine.
All right, and next we have the Labyrinth, which is a great maze you can walk through to do mindful walking, meditation, or prayer. And I personally love to do that myself. Yin yoga, restorative yoga, where you're actually holding an asana or a stretch for longer than 2 minutes, ideally 5 to 8 minutes. And it not only lengthens the muscles, but lengthens the tendons and ligaments and the fascia.
And yin yoga may seem like it's not positive stress, but how many of you hold your stretches for 5 to 8 minutes? Try it. It definitely gets you out of your comfort zone.
Yep. Next, dance, and just turn on your favorite music and just move your body as if no one's watching, because most of the time they're not watching anyway. We just did that last week at our niece's wedding. And better known as the Iceman, the Wim Hof method.
How many people here are familiar with Wim Hof? Show of hands. How many people here engage in cold plunges? Show of hands. And how many people here do the deep breathing? So the Wim Hof method is, Wim Hof basically started the cold plunge craze. Certainly it was around before him, but he made it popular with the Wim Hof method. You hold your breath, you breathe out, extensive, multiple repetitions of breathing out, and then in the last breath, exhale. You hold your breath. If I can do it for 3.5, he does it for 10 or more. And he's into ice baths and into cold showers. This is a classic example of hormetic stress. You talk about being stressed. The main reason he did it, or the way he came across it, was that his wife committed suicide, and he was so depressed he went into the wilderness. Lynn and I argue on this, and I know Wim well, and he said he was ready to die, and he exposed himself to the elements and the cold and everything, and he found out that he didn't die. He recovered and came out stronger and feeling better, and hence the birthplace of the Wim Hof method. I can tell you, you can tell from this picture, I thought I was going to die.
Yeah, that's why the trainer's in his face saying, breathe.
Breathe. Reminded me of when Lynn was pregnant. I was watching Beverly Hillbillies and she grabbed me, breathe. I mean, come on, Beverly Hillbillies, man. But anyway, the Wim Hof method is not just for recovery, physical recovery, which it's great for, the ice baths, cold plunges, but it's good for hormetic stress and for mental well-being.
Yes, absolutely. And cyclical breathing, another great example. There, of course, there are tons of different ways to breathe, but one of our favorite to help activate the parasympathetic nervous system and that rest, digest, or response, nervous response, is the 4-6-8 combination. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 6 seconds, exhale slowly through pursed lips for 8 seconds. And this is a great way to relax and also get into a better sleep mode. Sports and social activity, it goes without saying, it's a great way to connect with other people and have fun.
Here's the thing. Moving Mental Health Report said the best way to get people involved, remember the connectivity thing? Start one-to-one and then get them into group. And most of us are set up with personal trainers starting one-to-one, and you can explain that to them. The best thing for you, Mary, would be to get with a personal trainer, help with your mental well-being, and then eventually have them graduate to group exercise, group training, sports, or whatever. So it's another way to help your business. Some of the organizations and industry companies in the industry that are stressing mental well-being include Gymbox's Mind category, MindFit and their classes, their online classes. Third Space's Mind and Body classes. Fitness First and the Gym Group also have mind-body classes. And Adidas has partnered with Calm for an audio-guided mindfulness runs. Now, while all this is great, if you notice, all of those had to do with mind-body. Mental well-being needs to become mainstream. You need to integrate it into all phases of your program. The guy doing squats in the corner is maybe getting more for his mental well-being than the person doing yoga. Why? Because of the positive stress he's putting himself under. So we're going to talk about how to make it systemic in your organization in a moment.
So other industries that are embracing the mental health renaissance include active tourism, aromatherapy, diet nutrition, nutritional psychiatry and psychology is a huge emerging field now. Psychedelics or psilocybins or magic mushrooms, nutraceuticals, as well as hypnotherapy. And some of the things, new initiatives that the JWB is embarking upon is another qualitative research paper that is going to have years of evidence-based, scientific evidence-based research on anti-inflammatory diets on mental health outcomes, which will be released in 2024, which we're very excited about. Also, even more important, we're excited about the launch of our Mental Well-Being Association, which is an initiative of John W. Brick. It will house our certification programs, the first of which will be launched in Q1 next year for fitness professionals. And we're very excited about that. We're also creating certification programs for other industries. Our next up will be our K through 12 educators certification for mental well-being.
We've given talks like this for years all around the world, and people would always ask us, what can we do? And we realized we had to have a plan and a program, and we've created that. And we're hoping, and I'm serious, we're hoping that everyone in this room has every person on their staff. This isn't just for trainers. This is for the fitness industry, certified in mental well-being and know and understand the basic principles and how to make it mainstream in your organization. So what can I do? What can you do? First, become a mental well-being culture. You want to become familiar with the findings of the Move Your Mental Health Report, none of which we found on our own, all of which is public information. You want to understand and share the concepts of the dual continuum, and remember, healthcare, self-care, and we live in the health self-care lane. You want to talk about the self-care, healthcare model, the yin and yang model, and you want to know about make sure that you understand the concepts of hermetic positive stress. More importantly, you want to share it with your staff.
And yes, you want to educate the staff why they can help improve your profitability. And it's all about reframing. It can help your sales because it is what the majority of people want. According to that Euromonitor research report that Victor already displayed, it's mental well-being is what they want to help improve. And the other thing is it can help with retention because of the effort reward model that Victor also reviewed. It's also that always around the concept of the behavioral design journey.
So we heard earlier today, how can we keep people involved? Give them an effort reward model that they like and can live with, immediate response, and that's well-being. So what are some other things you can do? You can promote mental well-being to your members covertly and overtly. Overtly, you can make it part of your tour as you're showing them the different parts of your gym. As you're doing the sales process, you should say, and you'll also get the benefit of your mental well-being and feel better, and just constantly reinforce this concept of feeling better. During the close, no matter what they say their main reason for joining, you can say, yeah, that's great, but you'll also get the benefits of mental well-being. Because sometimes they come in and they don't realize that's really why they're there. You can also very carefully craft the language in your club. Instead of asking them, how was your workout, or how are you doing today? How do you feel today? How did your workout feel today? Really constantly enforce the concept of feeling good.
And it helps them to understand their body from a kinesthetic perspective. It's the somatic response. There are feelings that they'll have once they experience moving in that positive stress zone.
And how can you market? You can market on a regular basis, year-round, using some tagline that is very acceptable, such as "Move Your Mental Fitness." But you can also market around several key dates. One is October 10th is
World Mental Health Day, and actually it's World Mental Health Day, so obviously that's passed this year. And then in the month of May is International Mental Health Awareness Month. So now's the time to start planning for that in the month of May, where you can have all kinds of activities, lectures, seminars to help fill that gap between the known and the unknown with knowledge, and also engage your members and your staff with specific programs.
And you can also, you need to keep in mind the fact that your staff are going through the exact same experiences as the general public. Loneliness, fretting, problem sleeping, all those salutogenic pressures that drive them to languishing.
So what are some programs you can offer for your staff? Well, you can do things at your team meetings or team huddles. For example, work out together as a team. That will create that connectivity. Teach them about the cyclical breathing and offer that as an icebreaker or an energy break during your meetings. Hold seminars, again, educational seminars to fill that gap with knowledge, and stress the importance of activity, and offer online meditation and hypnotherapy.
We have a subcontractor that does it online for our entire company. We're coast to coast. So,
and journaling is another great way to release the emotions from your brain, your mind, your mental health and well-being to paper, and just let it go. And at Brick Bodies, we provided journals for our entire team.
So why mental well-being? Because mental well-being isn't just for your members or your staff. It's for everyone, including you. You can go from flourishing to languishing at the bat of an eye. And how do we know? Because it happened to us. We went from having a healthy, happy daughter with our new granddaughter to the call, "Dad, I've got cancer." You talk about a punch in the gut. You talk about fear filling the gap between the known and the unknown. Our daughter has ovarian cancer. Will she live? It literally brought us to our knees. But then we fell back on our training and developed a plan. We determined not to let fear take over our life. And we put together a integrated team that included Dr. Ghostware, who is a GYN oncologist surgeon, the best in Oregon. We recruited through low friends in high places the chief of GYN oncology at MD Anderson, considered
Dr. Lou is her name.
Dr. Lou, who went to Baltimore, the house, and went to the.
Yeah, we went to Vicky's visit last time with Dr. Lou, and I walked in, and she's like, my mother used to take your classes back in the day.
Was it meant to be? But anyway, the top, and you guys all know, I'm sure most of you in the U.S. know about MD Anderson. We recruited a world-renowned or nationally acclaimed herbologist, Donnie Yance, that put together a supplement program and a nutritional program that really helped with the self-care approach. And we had, we have on our team, and they're all still on the team, Dr. Dudley from Nashville, who is a
Holistic GYN oncologist.
who introduced, we were introduced to mistletoe therapy. How many people here know about mistletoe therapy in the treatment of cancer? So
It's Mother Nature's natural form of chemotherapy.
and so
Mistletoe.
Vicky gives herself injections of mistletoe therapy weekly. So we put together this world-class team, integrated, conventional, holistic approach. And at the same time, we realized that we needed to be at our best, not just for Vicky, but for ourselves.
But wait a minute,
Oh, that's
there's
right.
more.
That's right.
We also employed the Penguin Cold Cap. Have you heard of the Cold Cap? It helped to freeze her scalp to prevent the chemotherapy entering into the hair follicles, and that's what causes the hair loss for people undergoing chemotherapy. So we would freeze her scalp. The Penguin Cold Cap was at negative 35 degrees, and there were multiple caps sitting on dry ice, and the cap had to be changed every 30 minutes, of course, because the body temperature heats it up. In addition, she wore ice mittens and ice socks to prevent permanent nerve damage known as neuropathy.
So in our case, we knew we had to start practicing what we preach and institute a self-care program to keep us at our best for herself, for Vicky, and for ourselves. So we practiced guided meditation. We kept ourselves on an excellent fitness program, on a good diet. We recruited our network of friends, family, and prayer warriors.
We did cyclical breathing.
We did cyclical breathing. We did everything we could. All of the things that we said for you to do and others to do, we did. And I'm happy to say that 2 years later, Vicky is stable and doing great. But I will also say that this challenge is always with us every day. Every month when she goes to get another blood test, that fear creeps up. And if it's not this challenge, it's going to be another challenge, just like it'll be for everyone in the room. Why? Because that's life. So, before Vic would leave for her chemo session, every 3 weeks, we would gather at her house in Portland. John would fly in from wherever he was, and we'd fly up from Miami. And the morning that she would go to get the chemo, we would have a mimosa toast. Anybody that knows us knows mimosas are big in the Brick family. We'd say a prayer, and then Vic, we'd get a group picture. And Vic always had an inspirational message board in the picture. And I'd like to share with you the 6th and hopefully final message she will ever need to show going to chemo, in an effort to maybe inspire or help anyone in this room or anyone you might know suffering from either emotional or physical distress. And that last message, don't give up. Don't ever give up.
So I think we have time for questions, do we?
Do you need this?
And somebody better ask one, or Lynn's going to ask you to do another round of laugh yoga.
Test.
1 second.
Victor, hi, how are you? Years ago, he came to visit me in Ukraine, and it's been
I do remember,
it's been a COVID and it's been a war, so it seems like the other life. I want to thank Victor for giving this lecture. We'll be stealing him soon enough to Ukraine, because at this point we have a real mental crisis on our hands with a war happening in society which is completely unprepared for this. In Eastern Europe, the way to deal with mental health is drinking and drinking, right? So we're now working with the Ukrainian government to try to substitute the drinking to something else. And thank God now most of the policies and experience are being copied from United States. So that is quickly finding its way to Kiev, to Ukraine, to deal with these problems, including this one. So again, we'll be stealing him from you guys for a long time now, because we have about 40 million people that have entered this kind of situation. I wanted to ask you this: in the United States, is the situation getting worse or better? Is the trend up and down?
I'll answer that. You guys all know about the learning curve, right? When you start something, you immediately see an improvement, then you have a drop off, and then you go on a rapid improvement again. We are at the start of the learning curve. We have all this excitement, but we have a lot of misinformation out there and a lot of, well, that's great, but what do we do? Which is why we came up with the certification. So it's temporarily, but it's kind of, it hasn't gotten worse. It's just that it's unfocused. And what we're hoping, and we do a lot of things with Matrix and with Carly, and everyone that shares this concept of self-care, healthcare is working together to get it to where it's a straight line up. But temporarily, you'll see a lot of contradictions to some of the stuff that we mentioned, which is why we do that Move Your Mental Health report, because we got to back it up with science. There's so many things out there anecdotally. Anecdotally is the most dangerous thing. It's killed a lot of people because they saw somebody else did this and such, and they remember alternative instead of integrated.
Right. In addition, we sit on the board of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Johns Hopkins, and when we shared the dual continuum with it, even the chief of the department was like, "Oh, I've never seen that before." So they're at least starting to embrace the conversation, the beginnings of the conversation. I mean, it was just a year ago, they said, "Oh, we have this new concept called mindfulness." And Victor and I looked at each other, it's like, wait, that's been around for quite some time now, but they're just getting on board with the concepts. And as many of you mentioned in the previous panel, I know Kevin and Carly and all the other folks mentioned, it's collaborating, it's establishing those relationships and helping to educate, because they don't know what they don't know. So just like with legislators, it's important to constantly remind, do more reminding than enlightening. That's one of our key core values.